Good afternoon, everyone in the room. We will still have a lot of people connecting throughout our session, but I want to make sure that we are respecting your time. And so we're going to dive into the topic right away. Welcome. I see some familiar faces. I see some unfamiliar, well, not faces, rather names. So hello, Anna. Hello, Jana, Clara, Roberto. There will be many more people joining. But let's do this. If you're attending these kind of sessions for the first time, let me just briefly tell you that this is something that happens on a monthly basis. It is an initiative sponsored by the SHELeads project, which is something that I founded many years ago, already 5 years ago, I think. And what we do in these monthly talks is we always choose a burning issue, something that is an issue that my type of clients are usually battling with. And one of these issues is the topic of our discussion today. It's change management, and how to lead people through changes. Changes are usually quite difficult. So that's what we're going to do today. If you are seeing me for the first time, then let me just make a very brief introduction. I'm kind of a hybrid in between a coach, mentor, and a guide for women in management. And I founded SHELeads, which is an online holistic program for female executives to help them tap into their inner strength and really develop their leadership skills so that they can be awesome managers for the people around them. So that's a little bit about me. And I will introduce my wonderful guest for today's discussion. I have here with me Drenusha Shehu-Pula. Hello, Drenusha. And let me just tell you a little bit about Drenusha and why is it I chose her to talk to us about change management. So Drenusha, I need to read it because there is so much that I wouldn't be able to hold in my hand. So Drenusha is agile, it's a certified agile leader and coach. She's been working in the banking industry for the past 13 years, and she actually currently holds a position at the Raiffeisen Bank, and she is based in Pristina, Kosovo. She is someone who's been working for a long time alongside the CEO, basically helping them to support the organization through the transformational journey. And she uses a whole variety of methods, including Agile, Lean, Six Sigma, sorry about that, design thinking, and others. And right now, believe it or not, Drenusha is at this beautiful place where she sent me pictures from in Budva, and I'm really, really envious. So yes, Drenusha, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here with us. I think you're a perfect person to talk to us about transformation and change management because you have gone through many. And so you know how it works, you know what can go wrong, where leaders typically make mistakes. So I'm super happy that we will be able to hear your insights. And just before I ask the first question to Drenusha, for the rest of you, since I only have Drenusha today, we're going to have a very interactive discussion. Normally I have like 2 or 3 guests. We will have time for live questions. And so I encourage you, when you hear something throughout our discussion and you want to comment on it or you want to ask a question about it, please don't forget to write it down. You can put it directly in the chat, or you can keep it towards the end. We will have about 15 minutes for questions and answers. So if you want to ask your questions live, please do so, okay? Right, I think that's it. And Drenusha, we can just dive right into it. Yes.
Let's do this.
So welcome. And yes, I'm envious that I am here. I'm based in Prague. Well, the sun is shining, but I have no coast like you do right now. Okay, so Drenushka, my question goes like this. You've been through a lot in Raiffeisen Bank, and you went through many changes. You helped the process. And so I would love to hear from you what kind of changes, or rather, what would be the most recent change that you have supported as part of the leadership team in Raiffeisen? And what have you learned through that process? Yeah, let's delve into that.
Thank you, Elena. Before I answer your question, just let me greet your community as well. Hello, everyone from my side. And thank you for inviting me and trusting me on such a beautiful topic that I was grown in last 12 years by running the transformation all together in the organization. And coming back to your questions, maybe we should start with why we are doing changes. First of all, each organization or even ourselves, we are living in the VUCA world where everything is changeable. Especially last 3 years, it's very uncertain. We didn't know what we are facing, how the COVID impacted our life, how everything moved in a different way, how we are acting every day. So what we were planning previously to do or to change, now maybe it's changeable already. So change is very now in very different speed, I could say. It's very speedy. It's happening very often. Before we were planning, let's change in next 3 years, next 5 years, next 10 years, and now change is like immediate. Change is happening in different format. I can talk from the banking industry that I'm working with. As you said, I'm more than 16 years in banking industry and more than 10 years in transformations. So usually you have different triggers while you start to change. You want to optimize your processes, save resources. You want to introduce something new to the market. You want to have efficiency. You want to reduce costs. You want to develop people. You want to rebrand your organization, your products. So it depends what's the purpose of the change. So basically in our organization, we evolved. We started with a Six Sigma as a first methodology that changes most was focused on the processes. If the process was taking 10 days, let's brainstorm how to beat 5 days, how to beat 4 days. So basically this method, and at that point, the organization was more focused how to reduce the processes and optimize those processes. After a time, we came to conclusion, and maybe the organization was also growing, and the people felt the need that they also need to evolve. It's not just the processes. They have to kind of develop, try something new, change the positions. So at that time, we continued with the lean methodology, which is combination between efficiency and focus on people. And at that time, we optimized a lot and we reduced the cost of the product. This was the main objective to come to. If the product to release was costing us, let's assume one amount here, just for illustration purposes, 200 euros, how to become 100 so that we have more profit and less expenses. As we are banking industry, of course, we are determined to have a better profit from year to year.
Yeah.
After
Drenusha, can I just ask you a question? So you're describing the different type of changes that you have gone through. Some were focused on the processes, some were focused on the people, and the latest one is really the product. How can you reduce cost? So who is the one who monitors the market changes and decide what kind of change should be implemented on the organizational level? What kind of approach do you have, from top down, from bottom up? Who initiates that change?
Very good question, Alina, because it links me now to the latest change that we are going through. Usually nowadays, it's the market that determines you the need for the change, because you cannot survive if you're not evolving and you're not changing what market is requiring. We know many brands, even that we used before, do not exist today in the market because they didn't adapt. We are familiar with the Nokia, for example, as technology. We know Apple. So we saw the evolving. If they didn't embrace the change of the market, you were dismissed from the market. So in this case, I would say the market determines the need for the change. And recently we chose the agile methodology because it involved customer and people. So basically, who is using our products is customer, but who is supporting the customers to get that product is people. So this time we chose the agile methodology, and how we are running it, it's both sides, because agile starts with people, starts with customer. If before all the methods were mainly focused on hierarchical level, if leaders would say, and then just roll it out project based, in agile is totally different, because you have a vision, you have the what, and in agile the people are those who engage and contribute on how to come to that vision. So this method that we choose as organization is beneficial because people are engaged, people are participating, and before people were just implementing. You were maybe not, it was not very common to invite others to join on strategy and contribute in strategy and contribute in vision and contribute on their thoughts or challenge even the strategy, because diversity of thoughts bring you more opportunities. So this has evolved, as I said, even in our organization. Now it's totally different. We are working in a circle. We have opportunities to engage everyone. Communication is in a higher level. Everyone knows where we are standing. We have frequency of communication, even from top management. It's not that people are engaged with the top management once per year, or they don't meet them, let's say. Because as you were mentioning, through change is very important that not someone who made the decision to change is here and the team is here. We are all together working through to achieve the same purpose, same objective, same goals. So instead to achieve that, we have to come closer. So what we build is circles. We do have different circles who are communicating and engaging people throughout the change. Why we chose this, as I said, customer is very important. And having this uncertainty in the market, when you have fintechs, when you have different companies that are developing, providing different products, even financial products, you have to act. You have to bring those, you have to address those needs of the customer and to act, not just to address, but also to act, to provide them solutions. But who is doing this? It's people inside the organization.
Yes, I just wonder, maybe there are some people here in the room who are not using the agile methodology, or so what would you do in order to engage the people so that they contribute to the vision and help to make that happen? What would you do concretely?
Thank you. Concretely, first, through the change, people have different perspectives. First of all, for example, they don't have knowledge about methodology. It's just certain people inside the organization that have that knowledge. So basically, the first step, my recommendation would be to train at least for fundamentals so that they know the language we are using, what this methodology provides you, what kind of benefits you can get, how you can engage on this method, how you can engage yourself in these objectives. So basically, you address all the questions that people might have on their mind. And it's very important. So what I usually am fan of is that in the trainings, I do the gaming as well. So because in the gamification of the trainings, the method sticks with the participants. It's not just theory, and bye-bye, you go home and implement it. It's different. So basically we explain everything, how it works and how it should work and what are the benefits. And in the second part, we usually play a game when they are in these roles. Like we are, let's say, doing this transformation and they are leading this transformation. So they just start to sense it and feel the experience of the change. So they immediately, they change their perspective, for example, of fear. If they were fearing that this change is going to impact or how it's going to impact, if you act, you see that it's easy. It's not impacting you. You see that it's something that you can do. You see that it's something that's a role that you could play in this change. and immediately opens a different perspective and horizons for the participants as well.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is that you feel that certain people within the organization, they should be trained on this methodology, right? And then they should help the individual teams to implement it so that people learn how they can be contributor to what is happening in the company, how they can contribute to making or turning the vision into reality, or even crafting the vision, right?
Correctly.
So, I mean, you have an advantage of being in a huge company, right? It's a huge multinational. Amongst my clients, are also female executives that might be working for smaller companies, and they do not have these methodologies. So, what would you recommend, Drenusha, if we have a person who is leading a team of 10 people, and there is a change that they need to take the team through. So, and they don't have access to such methodologies because maybe the company is too small to invest. So what would be the recommendation?
Sure. Even without any of the methods that I mentioned, just to give a chronological view how we evolved, we could do the change, because we as humans have need for the change as well, for the challenge, for something new. That's how we grow out of the comfort zone. So what I would recommend is that they share the purpose. It's very important, even with the 10 people, to share the purpose. If we are in the point A, why we want to move to the point B? Because usually what you get as the answer is, we are good, we are doing good in the point A. Why we have to go to the B, to the C, to the D? So first we have to address this why. We have to discuss this why, because the market is changing, because our expenses are growing, because we will not manage, let's say, to compete with others in the market. What's the purpose? Why we are doing this change? After addressing this, it starts with the how we're going to achieve this. So basically, I would highly recommend that leaders don't talk on how, but create the space to generate more thoughts, diversity on thoughts. Even those extremes are good sometimes. I have a saying, there is no bad idea, it's just a bad timing. Because, after a certain time, that idea comes to reality, which means the market was not ready or something was not ready. But after 10 years, we see it's happening. So usually there is no bad idea. Even when I'm opening a brainstorming session, this is a grand rule where I'm asking people to follow. There is no bad idea. So even those extreme ideas contribute, because they are maybe innovative idea that we have to work for a longer period, but still we have to have them. And invite people to engage and to attach to this purpose why we are changing. So people then will feel more responsible, even to go through the change, even to support, to run the journey with you in a transforming or the change.
Yeah, Drenusha, this immediately triggers a whole series of questions, because I feel that many of the leaders fail in this regard to clearly communicate the why of the change, to give people a deeper sense of purpose, right? They typically say, well, why? Why do we need to implement this change? Because we need to reduce costs, because we need to expand globally, because we need to, but these are not strong ideas to get the people's minds and hearts, right? To get their real buy-in. So what kind of purpose, I mean, would you give me an example of like a purpose that you guys have shared with the teams that really resonated with the people and they wanted to buy into the idea, they saw the importance?
Of course, as I said, it starts with the purpose. We have first the organization purpose, vision, and mission, and it starts then with the teams inside the organization. So if we go in the teams, especially we saw that we had a high attrition rate from the tech people. The tech people was something that is evolving, let's say tech people skills, and we needed to do some change there, because how you were working, for example, a year ago, it's not anymore valid. Now we know that hybrid is something that we want. Flexibility is something that we want. We don't want to stick 8 for the hours job, the core hours. So we wanted to introduce, let's say, the hybrid model. Then we shared the purpose why we are introducing this hybrid model. And how do you feel if you would be part of this hybrid model? Or how it should be in your perception, this hybrid model. We invited everyone to contribute. We took pro and cons, and those cons we tried to solve out. Some remain because of different things. Maybe it's not the proper time for them for the solution, but still, this was one of the cases where we invited everyone to share their perception, if they would like to be part of it, or if they would be part of it, how would they feel? And we were addressing all, and we found it a solution how to move on.
And Drenusha, when you say everyone, you did it with the individual leaders of the business units, or literally the people, all the people of the
both layers.
Okay.
Both layers. With the people, we did it the first round, where they had to assess their own needs, wants, and the future plans, and also with the leaders.
Yeah, I just wonder, how do you do it with big groups? Because 150 people, that means 150 different opinions, suggestions, ideas. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, we built a certain questionnaire which was addressing this hybrid model and why we are doing and how the components of a hybrid model. And basically for the whole people, they first roll it out as a concept. We wanted everyone to assess themselves, their job, where they can work from, how much they need interaction with the others, how many hours, do they need, let's say, to have extra storage? Do they need a special laptop or performance because they are designers or something else and they need different capacity, or developers? So everyone was assessing themselves. And afterwards, we took this data and we were analyzing the patterns. Where do they take us? What kind of combination we can have, or where do we need to work? Because sometimes people in the questionnaires, they don't address fears. We know as humans before COVID, we were too much attached to the office, to go to work. And now it's very normal if you work from home, from sea, from coast, from everywhere. It's the output that matters, not the place where you're working from. And of course, we were trying to sense whether it's any fear also when these answers were given, especially if we would know that that kind of job or profile could work in this model. And then we will having conversation open to address. And then with the leaders, we had many meetings, bi-weekly meetings, where we were discussing the patterns that we generated, and we were discussing where to go what. What we are doing also is that we don't scale it up immediately for everyone. So we try first to pilot, to do kind of minimum viable product or result so that we see the outcome, and we adjust. And after that, we try to scale in a bigger groups. And we also try to invite even those that would like, let's say, to go more than what we are offering, to have something extra for them, like a special budget to buy something or have a retreat or do something extra. Yeah. This is just an example that is more understandable for everyone, because every one of us have sense of hybrid working and has faced especially these 2 years.
Yes, yeah. I think this idea that you mentioned is really interesting, to rather than roll out a major change with everyone at the same time, to have like a pilot group, right? I heard this idea from Simon Sinek, whom I totally adore, and he said that we need to go for the early adopters. We need to choose this bunch of maybe more risk-taking individuals who want to try and play. And once we get their buy-in, once everything works, then the rest of the organization will want to know, and they will also kind of buy into it and adopt the processes, right? So he calls it like reaching a tipping point. You want to do it with the early adopters. How did you decide who would be part of that pilot? Did you ask who would actually like to be part of it, or people were chosen, okay, you're going to be part of the test? How did you decide?
We decided to customize with each department, or let's say tribes that we have. So we didn't impose. We asked them and we decided together. We didn't impose.
Right.
What we provided to them is also how they can manage capacity in terms of having shared workload. Where do they see the workload? If they are working, I'm working from the coast today, but I do see my workload. Or what kind of tools do I use if I want to interact with another colleague? If we have a joint meeting, we use Microsoft Teams. So we provided everything that to enable this happening. And we let them decide when they want to start, and also how to plan this capacity transparently, so that everyone knows that I'm not in the office and where am I. This is important. It's not just to self-organize myself, but it's also to keep informed everyone, because we know we work in circles, we are dependent in each other for the work. Everyone in each organization, even a smaller one, everyone is dependent for a certain process from another person to be happening.
Okay. What was the final outcome? I mean, did you manage to satisfaction to vast majority of the employees? Did you figure out a solution that really worked for them?
It's still a room for improvement. We managed, let's say, to try it, because for me, especially for agile coaches, it's very important that people take effort to try it. Usually the complexity in every change is because we are humans. It's easy. If we change machines, you just plug in and plug out, and it's easy. But the complexity in changes when we are working with people is because we people are complex in terms of how we are addressing the things. Sometimes people don't address the fears. Sometimes people don't address the right questions because they think, how might they judge my questions? And based on these fears and let's say these things that they are not saying, they try to dismiss an idea or a change or something. So for me, it's very important that people first take a step to try things. And based on their experience, they can say if that works out or doesn't work out. Because what something was working for you might not work for me. So because we are different, we are working in different environments, it's very important that based on their experience, they judge it and they give feedback. And usually we do pay attention very much to the feedback, and we usually adjust based on the feedback that we get. In every transformation, we invited everyone to try it out. We had regular feedback session and we had regular retrospectives where we reviewed what went well, what didn't went well, what could we improve, what should we do more, what should we do less. And based on the output, we adjusted, and then the team basically was fitting because it was their proposal, how we adjusted to it. And then it just goes by the flow. So it's pretty much that we interact everyone in the circle. It's not just one way that you take it, implement it, and it's done. Because it's not going to be sustainable, first of all. You can implement it, but no one will use it because it was not properly or it was not, let's say, people didn't find themselves in that project or in that change, or it's basically, that's why it will not be utilized or used. It's very important that you get this feedback, adjust, so that you have sustainable usage.
Yeah. So on this particular project of that hybrid working, how long did it take you from the initial idea, then the analysis of what people need, what are maybe their fears, to the implementation, and then maybe rollout? Is it now rolled out across the organization?
It is rolling out. It is in rolling out.
Yeah. So how long was this process?
Actually, we started last year, and we had to stop for a time, and then we reviewed again because we started, let's say, when it was pandemic. And then by attending also different conferences, we understood that from a psychology perspective, people need first to come to the office to feel that they are back again. Many psychologists were suggesting this one, to feel that job safety, that they have office, that they have a chair, that they have a team, that they have a collaboration. Because this uncertainty that happened with COVID, of course, how to say, broke it down, the socializing part between people, interaction with humans. So first we brought everyone back in the office and we reinitiated the discussion around the topic. But while we were from home, we started with these to roll out these questionnaires for the preparation of analysis. And after they were back, we reviewed them again. We didn't take for granted how they answered from home, because we wanted to see whether something changed when they were back, and they need to adjust their also answers, how they perceive the model itself. So initially it was, I remember July last year, August, September, that we were rolling out surveys and preparing, and now still we are in rollout of implementation. So it might take that this year will go until December. And again, we might review next year who is happy, who is not happy, who is willing to go more, let's say, working from home instead of the office, and adjust. Because currently we have 80-20, the model, and you can go 60-40. It depends how much people will like the model and how much we will try much more in terms of how we are utilizing the capacity.
Fantastic. Yes. So when it comes to change management in general, let's go through the different steps, things that need to happen for a change to be implemented. Yeah. So let's go one by one. So you said that the key thing, and probably the first thing, is to communicate the why. Why is it that we need to go through this, right? So can we just do the different layers?
Sure. The key, as you mentioned, is the communication, the why we are doing it, and it has to be transparent, has to have enough information. And usually what people have in mind as question beside the why, how we are going to do, what will happen, how long will take, when it's going to start, like basic, to have a package of basic information so one individual can build then the picture, what's going to happen on their mind. So communication is one. Second is transparency, because throughout, let's say you announce the change, throughout the change you have many interactions, many changes going on. So it's very important that we are transparent and people get information what happened this month and what is coming next month, so that they know what's going on in the journey. Third is engagement. It's very important that especially those adopters get a role. And usually those adopters are being turned to ambassadors, because then they try, let's say, to influence or be active in their own community, because they tried it. They have to do what to say and what to talk and how to let's say, influence the others in their own community. And of course, adjustment, as I said, feedback is very important. We do have a saying that consider feedback as a gift, because even when feedback is not very positive, and it's again positive because you change and you adjust and you continue your journey. If you don't take the feedback and let's say you don't receive this gift, you will never know what was inside and what you can use that gift for, how to change or how to proceed further. So adjustments and feedback for us is very important. For us, voice of employee and their interaction and being communicated to them what's going on and what are the plans and how they are engaged are like a core what we are doing during the change. Sorry, I can hear you, Alena. You're muted.
Yes, sorry. I do that all the time. Yeah, so you said starting with communication over to transparency on the subsequent changes or updates, to engagement, gathering the feedback and then adopting maybe further changes, right? And prior to all that, as you said right at the beginning, we need to get the people involved in this process as early as possible. Hopefully, we want to have a culture in which people are encouraged to give feedback on anything, right? And they become co-creators of that vision that we have in the company, right? And you said that for that, you at your bank, you're using the agile methodology and you're using Six Sigma, right?
Yeah,
in
Six
order to
Sigma
make.
was the previous one. Now what we are using is very much focused on Agile.
Yes, yeah. Um,
But
yeah,
let me link to what you mentioned, Alena, because as you said, we are inviting everyone and engaging everyone, but communication from the leaders and change is not easy in this journey, because if we learn people for many years to do a certain process, what I'm noticing is they are too much attached to that process and they don't have flexibility. They lose by the time. They think that they own the processes. And when you go and try to change something, you know, it's my process. We cannot change it. It's very well. I'm handling. The processes are inside the organization, no matter if it's small or if it's big. We people are enablers of those processes. When we go home, these processes remain idle. Let's say no one is touching them until we are coming back. For example, this coffee talk, you enabled us to get together, to share the thoughts, to share the discussion. But if you wouldn't be, the process will remain. Again, the topic will remain change management, but someone else will enable it. So people sometimes are forgetting that we are enablers of the processes. We are not owners of the processes. And we have to evolve. Otherwise, we will not survive, because the market is changing so fast and the customer demands are changing so fast. Even ourselves, we are consuming different products. We have technology, we have food, and now we have evolved ourselves as well. Considering if we go retro, what we were wishing or having 3 years ago, we don't take it anymore because it changed a lot.
yes, absolutely. So what you're saying is that we shouldn't be overly attached to how things are going right now or to the processes that we have right now, even though we believe that they are amazing. We should always be willing to adapt, right?
Yeah, because if we say that my processes are fine, we are biased. How do we know that we are fine? Whom we ask that if they are satisfied? For example, if you don't share with us a link of feedback, how would you know whether this call was successful or whether we like or whether we need some change or whether we need something else? So this is what we need, let's say, every day and everywhere that we are working, not to be biased, but to invite people to have different diversity of opinions, because we might get some thoughts, even if we are doing good, because sometimes we are doing good, we don't need any change. But still we have kind of, let's say, okay, we can continue another quarter like this. Okay, we can continue another quarter like this or year, because we are getting a confirmation that we are okay. Another thing is also the language that we are using. If we used in organization to say for 10 years that you are the leading this process, or you are leading this, or you are leading that, and then we invite people to change and say, okay, let's work in circle and commute, people think that they are losing this leadership role, because they think in the circle there no one will be leading. Actually, everyone in the circle is leading, but in different angles. But we know that circle moves much faster than a triangle if we would put in competition. So this is also the language what we are using in organization. We have to pay attention, because people cannot switch like a machine. Okay, today you are in circle. Okay, in circle, but doing what or doing how? Because we train them to certain language. For 10 years, for example, we train them that they have to get approval of a manager. And now we are saying you're empowered. We have to prepare people to get empowered. Because if the person didn't take any decision for 10 years, of course it will fear how I'm going to take this decision. What kind of troubles might I get if I don't have, or if I failed? So we have to create this safety to grow first and then give the competences.
Yes, this is really, really important, because if we want the change that we propose to be successful, we need to equip people to be successful, right? And sometimes that means we need to help them acquire new skills, new procedures, new, I don't know, new whatever they don't have today, and they will need in order to support the final outcome that the organization wants, we need to help them, right? Because I think this is related to the fear that people have when it comes to change or uncertainty in general. Many people actually love changes, right? And the only reason why they're scared of changes is that they don't fully understand what the change is and how they fit in the change and how will their role or their job change as a result. Will they be required to do more or less? Will they be required to follow new methodologies? So if they know that, how will that change impact their work? And if they know that they will be equipped and trained in order to succeed in that new role, then that helps. That helps them overcome that initial fear that they might have related to the change, right?
Exactly, because we are humans, and being humans, as I said, we have our own diversity inside. And considering, for example, from perspective agile coach, you have to know your audience, you have to know a bit about their background, about their, let's say, personality type, because if having an extrovert in a team, you immediately will get challenged, address questions, address fears, everything. But sometimes your composition is also with introverts and other diversity of the team. So you have also to address those people, but kind of you have to question so that you get their question. You
Yes.
kind of have to provoke so that you get that fear out of them. So
Absolutely.
it's really important that we don't tackle just one group of people that are speaking, but we do have space for everyone. Even for those who are not speaking, we make an environment for them to speak up and address their needs. Because usually they are focused, okay, 3 people in the room, they validated because they addressed, but what about 12 others? They also need their own timing. But this is because, as I said, we are complex as a human. To implement a methodology is easy. You go in Google, you download it, and you go tick the boxes, and it's done. But it will not be sustainable because no one will follow, because they didn't know why you choose this methodology, why you did it in a certain way, why just you implement it, why you think it's going to work for us. So it's too many whys which were not addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. This is so important. And many leaders, they do not know how to deal with it. They react to the loudest in the room, but they somehow overlook the rest. I am an introvert, and so I can understand that very well. You know, I have this tendency before I say something, I think about it a lot, right? So if that happens in a meeting, I would probably be more on the quiet side. I would want to digest the proposal first, think about it, and only then come up with some ideas or express certain opinions. So this, what you said, is so important. The manager needs to know or needs to create an environment in which each and every individual gets their say, right? So Drenusha, what would you recommend that? So you mentioned surveys, right? Survey is a good tool to ensure that everyone gets that voice. What about in a meeting? When you have the loud people, then you have the quiet crowd. How do you handle that? What would be your recommendation?
In my role as agile coach, we have too many hats. Sometimes you are a teacher because you train people about, let's say, a methodology or a change. Sometimes you are a facilitator because you're going to facilitate, let's say, a tough conversation, even between team. And sometimes you need to address those provoking questions. So you need some time to balance, to keep, let's say, a balance between those people that are loud and create environment to invite those people by questioning or having a leading question towards them, or bringing examples that they can attach to, or maybe provoking a thought so that they can speak up. So it's totally different. Sometimes we do it also through the gaming, so that they bring it through the gaming. It's not only just open and meeting. It depends what kind of topic that we are tackling. But every time it's a way, and the key to it is just communication, just to communicate. Because if someone doesn't feel comfortable to talk into 12 people room, okay, you can have one-on-one and you can be the voice for that people as well. You know, you don't have to say the name or to attach to the person because it has a certain reason, but you have to hear that voice and you have to know what's going behind. Because usually what we see is the symptom, but how we came to that symptom, we have to dig deeper. If the person is, let's say, silent, we have to know why it's silent, what happened before. Was the person judged before? Was the person accused before for a thought? Was the person what? Because something happened that triggered that behavior.
Yes.
So it's not just an easy thing. That's why I said we have to dig deeper. We have to know, we have to work. And usually the key to everything is communication.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, that is one of the reasons for my job, right? Because I work with leaders. So we work to boost up their communication skills. By the way, I just had a thought. Many of my clients, they have situations in which they manage very senior people. They sometimes manage people who have longer years of experience than themselves. And these people, they have a lot of objections when it comes to changes, right? They have a lot to say and they don't want to go through changes because, as you said right at the beginning, why would we change this? We've been doing it for 25 years. So what is your experience with a more senior crowd of people who have the tendency of saying, I know the best how things should be working because I've been here for, for the past 30 years. So what would your recommendation be?
Yeah, the sentence that you mentioned is very common to hear from my position point of view. Is something that I hear very often. First, what happens if we attach to your example the seniors and the leader is that the seniors were too long for a longer period on that, let's say, role and on that the knowledge. My recommendation first would be that they start a rotation. They need to work on flexibility. And second, the question is, why would they expect that the leader needs to know everything? Because leadership position is about leading others and enabling others to flourish, to do their best. It's not about knowing the job, how to be done. Let's say if we are 10 people, to know everyone's job in detail. But it's important to know how Drenusha can flourish, how Elena can flourish, how Dana, everyone. But in order to know that, you have to spend time to review the work, to work together, to invite them to join you in an objective, for example. Or in another case, it could be that the leader asks the senior for opinion, invites the senior to contribute to the strategy, to objectives, so that they do it jointly, so that the senior feels part of it. Instead of going in the fighting mode, they do both together in collaboration mode. So this would be my recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. Flexibility, getting to know the person and what drives them and how to help them do better and invite them to contribute. Yes, totally. When it comes to that flexibility, it's not always easy, let's face it. So and the people who most need to develop more flexibility, they don't know they need it. So what can we do in order to make them more aware that maybe they should work on becoming a little bit more flexible?
Yeah, that's why we do 360 feedback, so that they collect feedback from different angles. So it's not just one way, manager or employee, but they have more opportunities for the feedback. And if that would be the case, I'm usually a fan of not imposing solutions. I'm more a fan of inviting people to go to their solutions by questioning, by finding out, why do you think that they think you're not flexible? Do you see any cases where you didn't show up on flexibility? And also what we are doing to boost more about flexibility and having diversity on skills, you can have some non-cash rewardings. So if you, let's say, learn more things to do and you're more flexible to do 10 things, you get 2 tickets for the cinema or you get a book. but you have to do an effort to come to it, you see? Because first, let's say you have to do 10 things prior to it, practice it, someone validates that you achieved a certain flexibility or certain knowledge, and then you earn something in return. Because some are motivated, we do know that we are not motivated all by the same things. So some are motivated by incentivizing, some are motivated by the purpose, by the change and impact that they make. So we have to find out for which one what to use. As I said, it's just a diagnosis, but we have to dig deeper to see what provided us with this diagnosis. And usually when we run this feedback, it's a neutral role. So the feedback that we are collecting is shared between the coach and the person. It's very important that we create safety for the person to go through the feedback. Because as I said, in feedback, people can also provide you something that you didn't know about yourself, that you're doing intentionally or non-intentionally. And the first hit is when you get the feedback. Let's say you did it something unintentionally. Wow, it's totally, you cannot believe it that you did it, for example. So usually a coach or someone that is not from the team is best to discuss with the person, because it's not biased, it's neutral, doesn't have a friendship or supporting one or another, but it's neutral. And usually I have sent the feedback to the one that was collected. I invited them to review, and if they needed my support towards interpretation or discussion, we would do it together. I was there. But if it was understandable for them, it's again, I was there. So it's not that we send these feedback to a manager, to head of department, and that feedback should be used at one point saying, you see, flexibility came out and you didn't do nothing about flexibility. No, that's not the point. If we want to help someone to grow, we should create safety also to grow, not to discuss it around, because the person then will let's say close it up even more for growing, because you're acknowledging them all the time and from different angles. So creating safety for discussion, for growing, is very important for people.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. I have tons of questions for you. But before I ask another, I would love to encourage our audience to drop their questions in the chat, or even if you want to raise your arm, I will see it in here and you can ask your question live. Yeah. So I'm going to be asking questions, but please raise your arm if you want to do the same. What are the most common reasons why changes fail, Drenusha, from your point of view? But I mean, we have already, since we addressed of the things that are critical for change to be successful, we have already talked about a lot of the reasons why a change project may fail. But do you have any other examples?
I would just add to that list, as we said, communication, transparency, engagement, adjustment. I would just add this challenging period of a change. We need also to have a challenging period. Why we are doing, can we do it better? How we did it? Why we did it this way? To create this diversity of thought, it's very important because it's not one person's say, it's a team say. So we have to decide, and it's not a blaming culture. It's rather than learning culture. We have learned, okay, we failed. While we failed because we were not planning correctly, because we were overestimating the situation, because let's say we didn't coordinate our capacity inside. So we need to address it, why, but not to blame it someone, to point out a finger that we failed because of you, because you were not here, because you didn't communicate. That's not something that we should do. It's something that we should prevent being done. Even if we see it, we should act, because each of us has a reason why certain things happen. But if we discuss it and we see in a circle way that all of us contributed, let's say, to a failure, because I didn't communicate, the other one didn't, let's say, engage, the other one didn't adjust. So everyone contributed to that failure. It's not one person.
Yeah. And
So usually they fail, as we said, because of lack of communication, because of not inviting others to join and engage, because they think that their own soup is best soup without giving others to taste. So we should provide more possibility to everyone to taste.
yes. Are you talking about this challenging period as something that should happen after the change has already been implemented, and now we're kind of analyzing the results and seeing what worked, what didn't work, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes? Or are you talking about this challenging period as something that should be happening throughout change management?
From the moment that we decide and we have the why, from that moment we should start. And it should be iterative, in iterations, not just one time, because communicating just in January what is happening now is too old. Even a day before, it's too old now because of dynamics. So they need kind of regular updates, regular touch points, regular communications. If it's a feedback, okay, let it be quarterly, yearly, bi-yearly. If it's, let's say, a communication about a change, let it be in a different channels, in a different way. It depends what the team or organization decides. Nowadays, it's not very common if just in organization you send email and you communicate, okay, people, now on we are going to work this way, blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, people need to see people. So usually the trend is that the management leadership records messages that they go directly to the team, that they see emotion, they see behavior, let's see tone of the voice, and people feel if how you're announcing also the change or where we are with the change. So it should be throughout the journey all the time. And it not should be just a journey to achieve from point A to B, but it should be a continuous journey. We should find a circle that we go C, D, and we go further, or we return. So we should have iteration loops that we go through, and it's more secure. It's more, let's say, that we're going to achieve more successful objectives if we go in iteration, because we adjust faster, we adjust earlier, and we adapt earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand. Now, I'm aware of time, so we need to bring this to closure. And I see Tamanda is asking a question. And she says, one thing I struggle with is ensuring team buys into change, not just accept it because they are in the team, but actually get excited about it. Do you have any tips, Drenusha?
In the wording that I see, one thing I struggle, I would first start here. It's one thing we struggle. It starts with we, because it's a team together. It's not I. If I would say I suggest, or let's say in this case, I suggested to the team that they change. I suggested, so it should be the opposite. First, it should be addressed. Why is this happening? Let them just give you the why. It's a reason why it's happening. If you just go there and provide them, let's say, a project change or whatever change that they are going through, they don't buy in. We are people. We came in the organization, whichever it is, for certain skills, knowledge, and how we were, let's say, educated up till here. So people want acknowledgement on that. They put it effort, time, money on becoming who they are. So we need to know why is happening this. After addressing why, for example, if it's 10, we break it down and we try to find out solution together again. Not, okay, I found it the pain points, let me go in the room, I try to brainstorm solution. No, it's we. Instead of using I as a word, we should try we as a word. The trend of the work, even starting from schools, it's in the teamwork. No one anymore presents just one project, a team project.
Yes. So Drenusha, let me just make sure that I understand. So what you're saying is that we should, if people are not buying into the change, we need to dig deeper and try to understand what is going on. Why is it they're not buying into it? Is it because they have not been involved in this whole process? Is it because they have the emotional reactions because they don't know exactly how the change will impact them. So we need to go back to them and ask them and brainstorm, or what is it you're saying?
Yes, I would suggest to brainstorm and invite them. You can do it in different ways. You can do it without being in the room. Just give them the instructions what they should put, let's say, on the, and you can go in this certain room, put your sticky notes. Why do you think? If they don't want to be exposed with the names, you can have anonymously. It's important just to get out what they think, because there is the key, what you need to adjust to continue further.
Mm-hmm. I can kind of see this situation happening when a decision is taken on the upper levels and then a change is imposed on that business unit. And then the individual team members, they're kind of struggling with that decision. And the leader has to roll in the change with the team, but it's been essentially imposed onto them, right? So if that is the case, if it has been imposed, and we do have situations like that, let's face it, the world is not ideal. How can we deal with it? Because let's say that no matter what the team members say, the decision has been taken. There will be a new process or a new technology implemented, and there is nothing they can do about it. So how can we still get their buy-in so that they kind of say, well, okay, let's go for it?
Yeah, first, if we invite them to, let's say, be a champions of this change, they could, one, be champion of changing the processes so that they lead the change of the processes. It doesn't need to come by the leader. Usually you create space. Okay, who wants to lead the change for the process? Okay, I go, you take it. Who wants to lead the change of the technology? I lead it. So you invite people, you engage, as I said earlier. The leadership style has evolved throughout the years even itself. And we have to admit this. Before it was autocratic leadership. So just one man thinking, or whoever, one person thinking and taking that decision and just going through. And nowadays, it's not anymore. That kind of leadership, it's only in the army, when you don't have time to think, but you need to act. Then we had transactional leadership. I give you, you give me, and it was between 2 or 3 people, max. And now it's totally different. As I said, we moved to circle. We moved that we are doing all this together for a joint purpose, for a better community, for a better what? As we are doing today, we are contributing all together to this topic to evolve the change management. So together we can benefit by sharing our ideas or experiences when we face a change, how to do it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have tons of questions, but we're running out of time. So I would love to really thank you, Drenusha, and to all of you in here. If you do have any additional questions that you would like us to answer, please don't hesitate to contact me. I can try to answer myself, or I can coordinate the answer with Drenusha, yeah, so that we make sure that you get the tip that you're asking for. So thank you so much, Drenusha, for your time. Thank you so much to everyone who is here with us. You could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here. So thank you. Be in touch. And if you want to know more about the SHELeads initiative, about the SHELeads program that we have for female executives, please do let me know, because we're always interviewing people to come on board. Yeah, so be well, have a wonderful day, and let's continue talking. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.